You cannot spend 90 minutes looking at the horrors of the slave trade and then jump in the very next second to watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I'm Tom Mullaney, and I'm a first-generation college student and also a professor of history of 14 years. And this channel is all about how academia really works. In this episode, I want to discuss work-life balance, especially during the period of COVID and shelter in place. Right now, I'm shooting this video in my home office, and my wife and I alternate pretty much every 90 minutes between our own jobs and then taking care of our 2-year-old son because childcare is shut down. The shelter-in-place period has really driven home what I consider to be a kind of paradox, which is that counterintuitively, there can actually be a form of balance which is quite unhealthy or that can even be quite damaging to one's well-being. And this is a form of work-life balance in which one is constantly alternating between two radically different mindsets and sort of states of being. One moment I'm singing the alphabet song to my son for maybe the 17th time.
A, B, C, D.
And then in the very next moment I'm preparing a lecture on the Second World War. And each side of this
A, B, C, D.
seems to pervade or saturate the other, oftentimes with very unsettling outcomes.
A, B, C, D.
On the one hand, this music, this melody of the alphabet song can kind of seep into the footage of the material that I'm working on for my classes or my research, which, since I study history, is often quite disturbing, quite violent. And suddenly it's almost as if I'm watching or looking at sources on the transatlantic slave trade and I'm hearing children's songs in the background. I think prior to shelter in place, prior to COVID-19 and the crisis we're all living through, there was something in the back of my mind which told me, and I now realize it was naive, that if only I could just go to the office and then maybe hop back over to daycare to see my son, hop over there for a lunch or a coffee with my wife, and then hop back to work, that this would be the quintessential work-life balance that people are talking about. And what shelter in place has driven home very clearly is that that is just not the case. I kind of want to send 3 tips to my future self and also to anyone watching about what I think real work-life balance looks like. I think there are 3 elements to this which have only become very clear to me right now. The first is that any given experience requires a certain kind of natural length of time, a kind of natural episode to it that allows for the fruition, the completion of that action. You cannot spend 90 minutes looking at the horrors of the slave trade and then jump in the very next second to watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It just doesn't work. Rather, the preparation of a lecture like that, one's research and writing, advising with students, requires a kind of length of time that is natural to that action. And anything less than that might be necessary, might be a busy day, or we might be sheltering in place for however many months longer, but it is not the recipe for work-life balance. So that's the first thing. The second piece of this is related, and I think of this as a transition state. If I were to spend 90 minutes intensively working on a lecture on the First World War, that it might work for me to then go on and take my son out for a long walk in the woods. But I think I would need some kind of buffer period of time, a transition. Prior to COVID, that was the walk home from campus, or when we lived up in San Francisco, that was the commute home, which I secretly hated, but it did serve a purpose. And now there is no mindset. It's simply a walk down the stairs or just opening the door, and then suddenly it is the alphabet song and heads, shoulders, knees, and toes, and the wheels on the bus. And that is just simply too jarring. I don't think that there is a body, a psyche out there that can handle that kind of oscillation. And so some kind of transition, a long walk, a commute, whatever it might be, seems to me to be absolutely essential to this mysterious work-life balance that we're talking about. Third is, of course, leisure, something that is a third thing both to work and home. The funny part about work-life balance is that this life category is immense. Life, I guess, is what? Family, extended family, dinner, sleeping, vacation. The category is just too big. Work makes sense, but life, that's kind of an overly ambitious category. So really, if we think about work and then family, so spending time with one's family, being present, conversations, food, playing, whatever it might be, there needs to be a third thing, which is leisure. During COVID-19 and, with so little time to get so much work done, and then full-time childcare responsibilities split between my wife and I, there really is effectively no downtime. There is no time in which to recharge. I've now just covetously looked forward to the few minutes right before bed, but really that's not a healthy time to be, watching an HBO series or watching YouTube tutorials, whatever it is, because it doesn't get you in the right mindset to sleep. A note to my future self, post-COVID, post-shelter in place, is work-life balance is not about sort of merging these two worlds. It's not about having your family at work or your work and your family. It is about giving the proper kind of time that these moments need. It is about a transition or a boundary between different moments that require different mindsets and states of being. And then finally, there is just a third essential kind of unprogrammed and miscellaneous time when the mind and the heart can just work itself out with whatever the activity is that is neither work nor family. I think the idea of the life category of work-life balance just needs to be redesigned. If you found this video helpful, or if you'd like to see any other videos about what academia is like, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and leave a comment down below about what your life is like during shelter in place, whether you have kids or not, whether you have any family members you have to take care of. What is it like to establish a work-life balance when basically shelter in place has erased that boundary for so many of us? I look forward to seeing your comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.